Hi, Clint.
Hey there, how are you doing?
Fantastic. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you pretty good. So glad to have you here on Love and Money Secrets TV. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. We're right at 7:01 already. So let's get started.
All right.
Welcome to Love and Money Secrets TV. And today we have an exciting hour. We have the founder, the creator, the mastermind of the human mind programming grid word code. It's grid work that Clint, who is by trade a software engineer, he's an electronics engineer, he knows how to do computer programming, and he figured out a way how to actually, with pen to paper, good old school, pen to paper, you can actually program your mind so that your body will then follow suit. And he has a spectacular story of how he went from really the throes of adversity, where he went through some things that I can't even begin to imagine as a veteran, and also in his personal life, because you lost your brother to addiction and he offed himself, and you were taking 14 different pills at the time that he lost his life to that battle, the battle with those demons that we all have to struggle with.
Yeah.
And you went from not being educated, homeless in a car, to like 10 years later you are free of those 14 pills, no more addictions, depression. You even resolved the relationship with your mom. So I want to share just really quickly, I want to read your bio so people have an idea of who you are. Some people have seen last week's episode, which was our first introduction in public, where we brought that human mind programming code to the world. And we're doing, today is the first of a 5-part series that basically goes every Thursday in the month of March. So let me read here really quickly. So this is Clint's background. He was an IT professional for over 15 years, working for companies like eBay, PayPal, and Apple. USAF veteran, and now traveling the world and providing IT certifications while transitioning into manifesting full-time coaching business. And now, how I got here. He was severely depressed after my brother transitioned due to a pharmaceutical drug and overdose over 8 years ago. He was taking 14 pills, prescribed medications daily, and now he's not taking any medications. And some really cool, fun facts about Clint is that he was homeless at 20 years of age, with no high school education, was earning a 6-figure salary by the time he was 30 years old. I know he doesn't look like he's even 30, but he is. And I always have a map of the world hanging where I live, because he likes to travel all over the world. We actually met in Cancun.
Yep.
And I turned down $250,000 to go meditate instead. Imagine being in a position where you can afford to turn down a quarter mil because you'd
Yeah.
rather meditate. Imagine that was at the monastery, that was the meditation that you were doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, even at that time, being in a position to do that is relative, right? Like it wasn't an easy decision, but I asked myself what was more important, the money or, my mental health and well-being, and I made the decision that I feel was the best.
Yeah. So, and the thing is that quarter million, you'll probably get it tenfold the universe, because you followed your heart, because you stayed tuned in, tapped in, turned on to the divine. Then things don't need to happen in a linear progression, which you and I have witnessed a lot of stuff
Yeah.
just since the end of January, when we met at the monastery in Cancun at the Dr. Joe event. So why don't we start with that? Because that, obviously, you were in a heart-centered place, and
Yeah.
as many people aren't aware, really having an open heart is the key to everything. So why don't you talk a little bit about that, and how you process that in your persona?
Yeah, no, I mean that's a really good question, right? How have I processed having an open heart in my own persona? And I think it's kind of what for me the grid work that I do is about, because I knew at one point that I wasn't, right. I could tell that thing was missing, right. So I started searching within myself, and and learning, like, what does joy feel like, what does happiness feel like, what does satisfaction feel like, what does confidence feel like, right. And then began the process of practicing those emotions, which just led me to that very place that was really always there, but getting myself to the point where I could recognize it and realize it and feel it and experience it was part of the journey, and it was a hard journey, right? But it was, and I say hard, but it took focus and it took commitment, right? That was the hard part. There's a quote from Dr. Joe, where I love it. He goes, the hardest part about change is not making the same choice you did the day before. And that really was the hardest part about it, was just getting up and doing something different, deciding to do something that benefited myself, and, showing up for me every day. And so, now it becomes natural. It's who you are, right? And I find myself, it's so interesting. Like, I love the moments when, like, I'm in an experience and I know that, like, historically, I probably would not be having like a great time, or I would have been really upset, or like, yeah, it would have just, expecting a terrible outcome. And now I'm just like, yeah, you know what? It's going to be okay. Like, I'm starting to see how things are all okay, and it's my perspective. And like, even in this tragic thing, sure, I could go with what I knew and expect something horrible, or I can realize that, you know what, there's something good to be found in every moment.
Yeah. So what you said is very powerful, because oftentimes we don't even realize that we're making the same decisions day after day in every way. And it's such a habit, it's such a habitual pattern. It's part of our conditioning. The neurological pathways of our brain have such deep grooves to do. You brush your teeth with the same hand, you get out of the same side of the bed, you go to bed on the same side of the bed. You do all these things kind of by rote, without really thinking, because you decided long ago that you were going to do it a certain way, and so now it's just you're on autopilot.
Yeah.
So to now actually go in and decide, okay, I'm not going to do the autopilot anymore. I'm going to just to change one thing. If I were to tell you, and one of the quickest ways, when I work with my private clients, I sometimes give them two or three things to do before we actually meet, and one of them is to brush their teeth with their left hand,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you can even if you're not ambidextrous, you can do it. Now it feels really weird when you first start to do it, and it takes longer. But as you remember to do it every day and you start brushing your teeth, believe it or not, you're actually getting smarter, because
Hmm.
instead of 1,300 nerves, which is what you use to do all your habitual stuff, you're now having to employ 2,600, because you're doing something new and different. So you're
Yeah.
learning the skill and the feeling and the dexterity of brushing your teeth with your left hand. So talk a little bit more about, what were some of the things, something like an open heart, because that is kind of a more elusive thing that out in the general population, the populace doesn't really talk about open and closed hearts. That
Right.
is something that is kind of reserved for very quiet, small circles. And even then, even in religious and spiritual circles, in many of those, they don't even talk about it very much either.
Yeah.
So, talk a little bit about what brought you to even realize, like, how did you learn that it was possible that just maybe your heart wasn't open, and then you chose to, okay, I'm not even sure if it's open or not, but I think I need to make sure that I do have an open heart. What was that like?
Yeah, I think that honestly for me it came on the heels of success, right? And which sounds really crazy, because I had found myself successful in most regards, right? I had a good income, I had pretty much anything I wanted. I'd worked hard for and kind of built these things. And in the middle of this, I just realized one day I wasn't happy. And I was like, why am I not happy? Why don't I feel happiness? And then I started thinking, I'm like, I don't even know that I know what happiness feels like. I can't even imagine the feeling, right? And I started, really searching for those things that make me happy. And I was like, it was that in that moment, around that time was also when I was looking at, this pill minder I had, and I would put all my pills in there every day that I was supposed to take in the morning and the evening. And as I was putting some pills in there, I couldn't close the little pill minder. I couldn't snap it shut because it was too full with pills. And I was like, wow, like I just had this kind of breakdown. I'm like, what am I becoming? Like, you know what I mean? Like looking at this, like this is my buffet of pharmaceuticals that I'm doing just to supposedly be happy, but yet I still don't feel happy. Like, what's wrong? Like, I've got great things, I've got a great family, I've got, a great house, all this stuff. Like, what is wrong with me? And that's what started the search, right? And then from there, I realized looking at a lot of the medicine was taking, it all had to do with a mental state, right? Like, depression or anxiety or, not having focus, stuff like that. It was all these mental things. And I'm like, well, how do I make my mind stronger? What do I do? And there's not like, that's it, oddly enough, it doesn't seem like it is kind of common knowledge, but it's a lot of people don't take it serious. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not something even people talk about in conversations most days. So I set out to go, well, what can I find, right? And I found an app. I started doing some mindfulness practice, and from there it started just like 5 minutes a day, and it took a while, right? Honestly, it felt like it was kind of weird at first, but then I would, would start to experience relief in moments of of that mindfulness, right? And from there, in a year later, I was doing 45 minutes a day of mindfulness, and it wasn't enough. I was like, man, this is starting to really feel good. Like I'm starting to really understand, like, what feeling at least better feels like. And from that, I went into meditation, right? And got into meditation and really just kept exploring, and until I started having experiences where was having good emotions. And then I'd have it, and I'd be like, wow, what was that? How do I get that back? And so I think I would do what most people want to do. You want to recreate the event that you feel triggered the emotion, right? And that was really hard to do. Like, you'd have to try to control every aspect of your life, every conversation that you're having, every interaction, if you really want to have this, because if you're waiting for something from the outside to trigger up that emotion inside of you, you're going to have a lot of work to do trying to keep that managed, if you will. Um, so I decided, I was like, well, could I just start practicing these feelings? Can I just find these feelings on my own? Like, is there a way? And I did, right? And so now I feel like my you know the open heart to me is about really just giving into it, right? Just realizing it's there with you all the time, and letting go. Like even right now, I can feel it. It feels good. I could be nervous. I could be so many things, right? Your mind wants to race with all of this stuff. What are people thinking? All this kind of things. But I just don't worry about those things because I know how to find those feelings inside me. And so, like that's that connection. So, opening your heart to me, it's not just a trigger moment. It's a process. It happens in moments, but you want to catch on to it. You want to hang on to it, and love that in your life. Find a way to bring that and make it part of your day. Because to me, I believe fully that I can live an experience where it's that way all the time. And that's the goal I set for myself, right? And I know that there'll be a lot of learning and growing along the way. And I'm kind of excited about that now. At first, that used to scare me, right? But now I'm like, well, you know what? I've seen this take me through so many challenges. I've felt this, lead me through really difficult and confusing parts of my life, and the practice, this work, really helping me to see things differently, right? And so now I realize that, anything that comes, I can learn to look at it differently. I can learn and find, where the strength to grow from it is, and where the benefit is. It may not feel comfortable when it's happening, but that's okay. It won't stay uncomfortable because I know how to get back to good.
You know how to get back to good. So even though you were really in the deep throes of despair and depression, and I would imagine as a veteran you probably had PTSD, and I can't imagine the horrific memories and thoughts and the panic attacks that you must have had from all that trauma. But that's a legitimate question to ask. What does it even feel like to be happy? Do I even know what it feels like to be happy? Because you were in such a dark place, I mean, anybody in your shoes would legitimately be in that dark place after all the history that you had suffered. And then on top of that, to then lose your brother, I can't imagine, and you didn't lose him to, it would have been horrible if you lost him to an accident, it would have been horrible if you lost him to a disease, but you lost him by his own hand, he took his life. And so to see him, dealing with the depression and the PTSD that he had, and all, you guys shared some emotional trauma from your childhood, and to see him lose his life because of that battle that he had with whatever medications, drugs, and so forth that he was taking, that must have been very jarring to you. The loss of your sibling, and then at the same time, I remember you saying you're like, whoa, he was taking all these different meds for, depression, anxiety, etc. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm taking 14 pills here every day, and I'm not happy. I'm depressed. I'm traumatized. I'm not having really any positive. It sounded like you're not even having neutral emotions. You were just having the lower negative. Those are really, that's a battle just to wake up every day instead of saying, oh God, here it is another day. It's like, good God, it's like not another day.
Yeah,
It's the polar opposite.
and for me too, like I was really good at hiding it. So I not a lot of people knew, hardly anyone really understood, the struggle because, I'd go to work and I was a manager, so I had a team. I wanted to, be there and show up for them, and I wanted to give them the best and the best experience. So to me, what I would do is I would just table all of my personal issues, and then I would go and do the things that I needed to do and just kind of leave myself on the back burner. But the thing is, as soon as I came back home, it was just waiting for me, right? And I just pick it back up and you carry it on. So I mean, even we can give ourselves some relief by ignoring and putting off, or even doing things in service for other people, which is beautiful, right? There is that beauty that when you help people, it helps you too, even in your darkest days, right? But at some point you still have to acknowledge what is going on with you and be willing and brave enough to work on that. Or and I say brave enough to encourage people that, look, don't wait for rock bottom. You don't need rock bottom. I believe it with all my heart. You don't need rock bottom. I was kind of stubborn and I wasn't really realizing. And for me, I hit, what was my rock bottom. But I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And wherever someone may be right now, if they can, turn themselves around from where it is right now, build that momentum up now and don't wait for things to get worse to make those decisions.
Yeah. So what did you, so was it a situation that you decided, one, you need to open your heart, and two, it's like, I want to feel happy and I'm taking all these pills, all these pills have to do with mental state and basically to get you to feel better, but you're not really feeling better. You're making more money, you're successful in your career, but the struggle is still very real. And
Yeah.
so, was there something that you saw, or how did you come to the place where you actually had the first realization, oh, this is what happiness feels like? Or how were you able to insert happiness into your present experience so that you said earlier that you could hang on to that happy moment. And if
Yeah.
you have a happy moment, you put one moment, 2 moments, 3 moments, 4 moments together, and before you know, you have a minute, you have 5 minutes, you have 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and you blink, and over time, then you have a day where you're experiencing happiness.
Yeah.
So,
So, I started the mindfulness. I was looking for it, and honestly, I was, I didn't know exactly. It's hard to know what to look for if you can't think about what that thing is that you're looking for. I'm looking for something. I don't know what it is, right? And it can be challenging. So it was maybe 9 months to a year after I had really began the mindfulness practice. I was sitting on the couch one morning, and my daughter was on my lap. We were watching the newer Pete's Dragon, and there was a point where the boy Pete falls down into the mist, and the dragon swoops down, and then all of a sudden, like my daughter sat up and she's tense. She's watching, like, oh goodness, what's going to happen to Pete, and the all of a sudden, the dragon and Pete come bursting out of the smoke, and she just clapped and kicked her legs and was giggling and was so happy. And I started giggling and then, like, I just felt good. And as soon as I felt good, I just started crying, and I'm sitting here crying, with my daughter in my lap, and I'm thinking, oh, wait a second, this feels really good. This must be happy. This must be happy, right? And so then it's like I understood what that emotional signature was, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. This is that thing that I'm reaching for, right? And I knew I just once you get it, right, it's like you just got to find that way back to it. And it was it was a lot of work for me to figure out how to get back there. And I didn't always know what I was looking for, but I knew I was looking for something. And I think there's a lot of us out there that are like that, right? And that's kind of what my whole hope and goal is to share my experience and just be really honest about it and say, look, it wasn't perfect. I'm not perfect now. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. All of that stuff. You don't have to be. You don't have to be any of those things. You just have to want it and be willing to do something and try to find a way to it. And I want to share the things that helped me, and hopefully they inspire people to find the things that help them, and or maybe they can use something that I used and it will help them in a way. However it works, it's there's no shortage of the happiness that people can find within their self, right? And I hope that more of the world can recognize that and realize that and experience that in their own life.
Fantastic. So then, so now you're in the awareness of like, okay, I'm laughing and you're having this vicarious experience, seeing your daughter experience so much joy, so much happiness, so much glee. And then it is, enthusiasm and happiness is contagious. So then she catches, gives you that vibe. And now you legitimately have your own experience of happiness, of joy, of being ecstatic and thrilled. And you recognize in that moment, oh, wow, this feels really good. I think this is such an important point, and I'm spending extra time on here on purpose
Sure.
because you said something so important just 30 seconds ago where you didn't even know what you were looking for. So, in terms of emotions, you didn't know what you were looking for. In terms of path to improve yourself, you didn't know what you were looking for. You didn't know what the specifics were. And
Yeah.
there are people out there right now who are like, I want to change jobs, but I don't know what job I want to change to. I know that I want to change careers or I want to start a business, but I don't know what career, what my life purpose is, etc. And so this could be, there are people who want to move and they don't know. It's like, well, I want to move, but I don't know what town. I know I want to get out of this town. I know maybe even not only this town, but I want to get out of this state, maybe even this country, but they don't know where. So
Right.
that doesn't really matter. What really, the reason why anybody does anything is because of how it will make you feel.
Yeah.
Whether you're buying a house, a car, whether you're getting into a new relationship, whether you're starting a new business, whether you're trying to get rid of disease or heal from whatever type of maybe a physical accident that you had, whatever the case might be, we do all of that because we are motivated by the pain from being in that circumstance, being in the unwanted, and I always equate that to looking to the left. We got
Yeah.
to turn the other cheek and go to the right to the wanted. But some of us have gotten so conditioned to not allow ourselves to even feel joy doing those things that we enjoy doing.
Right.
Playing the guitar, doing artwork, dancing, horseback riding, bike riding, whatever floats your boat. It doesn't matter what that thing is, but some of us have gotten so much onto the rat race where it's like, I got to make money. So I just got to, work myself to the bone, 24/7, 365, do it over and over and over again. I don't have time for, I don't have time for, I don't have time for, I don't even have time to finish that sentence. I don't have time
Mhm.
for,
Yeah.
so, a lot of us get into that rut because it's like, it's an easy thing to do in our society, especially in the United States. That's how we're kind of trained and conditioned.
Yeah. 100%.
So that the fact that you were able to recognize that feeling of happiness, now at least you know what the vibrational frequency of that was, even if maybe the word, I mean, you're an engineer, so of course you're going to think in terms of vibrational frequency. Some people out there will relate with that, others won't, but it's the feeling
Yeah.
felt light, felt good, felt pleasant in your body. So now you were inspired to create this grid work. And how
Yep.
did that come about as because as a computer programmer, you know exactly what the keys are you need to type into your computer to get the code to do this, which is a command that will make whatever's on our screen look a certain way.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of you which is trained to do that. So I'm very intrigued that you were able to bring it out from here into that activity into a paper and pen. So
Yeah.
share with us a little bit about that.
Sure, and just before that, just to pay respect to all the software developers and programmers out there, because if they look, they're going to go, wait a second. I work in IT and I work along with engineering. I've worked on and led a bunch of software development programs, but I am not by trade a programmer, so to speak. So there's those people are wizards, and they can do that. I know how to kind of move toward the things that I want, and I know how to put solutions together, and I know how to recognize the right kind of resources to pull things together. But I don't actually do the programming, but I do understand it. But to come back to the question, so how did I get to the grid work? So it always starts with a problem, right? You know, and every problem is the birth of a solution, right? And so the problem for me was when, you know, I started kind of getting into the circles of where manifestation is, and people are talking about manifestation. I was just kind of thinking about it and listening and absorbing it and going, what is this that people, is this possible? Like, it seems possible. And I feel like maybe even in ways in my life, I've done this, right? You know, like I can tell when I've had real positive intent and set my mind. So like when I was homeless and I made the decision that I wanted more for my life, I made the decision. One day I want a 6-figure salary. 10 years later, it happened, right? You know, and I've seen that when I set my heart into something, you know, and follow it through and be committed to it, right? But I didn't really understand it at what I was doing, how it was working, why it worked. And a lot of it, I felt like it was all conditional effort. And, you know, if you're, again, living by conditions, you're subject to the conditions. But in this, the problem that occurred for me is wasn't about the method of manifesting. It was about the goal, because a lot of people were saying, you know, if you want to manifest your dream life, and if you want to manifest millions of dollars, and if you want to manifest a new car and or a lover, you know, well, I had a beautiful family. I had a nice house. I didn't need things, right? I needed feelings, right? I wanted emotions. And so like I was like, I don't know what I want, you know? And so I really started thinking about, you know, how do I know what I want? And I was like, well, I know one thing I want. I want those feelings, right? So it kind of really got me thinking more about those feelings and how do I get to them. And so, you know, it kind of clicked for me one day. I was like, you know, anything you're going to become good at, you need to practice. And you know, people talk about the frequency of love being the highest frequency, but there's frequency is really talking about a measurement of how often something occurs within a cycle, right? If it occurs 60 times, you'd call that 60 hertz, right? So, you know, I asked myself, well, what's my frequency for happiness? Well, maybe it's once a month. It's monthly. You know, I was like, well, could I get that to daily? You know what I mean? What if I sat and practiced, you know, and I had heard some of, I was listening to some of Esther Hicks recordings, right? And they were talking about, you know, she was talking about a grid and talking about these, you know, writing these words down. And I just kind of got this idea, and I was like, huh. And I go, I think I might understand what she's talking about. She's mentioning, you know, having 12, 16 words and things. And I was like, well, those are both multiples of 4. And then it was just like the image popped in my mind, and I was going to work a little grid with you guys today,
That's
just to kind of show you some of the process that I go through. But the idea is simply just, you know, write a column of words, you know, and I do for this one, I've got set up for 9, 3 by 3. I do 4 by 4 each day, but I would write happy down, and then I would find that feeling of happiness and experience it. And then I would just continue to write these feelings down and essentially build this grid of what my expectations were for the day. And then I would come back the next day and I would look at that grid and I would go, now, did those things show up? Did I experience those in that following in that day? And at first I had to look really hard, but then I would go, oh yeah, you know what? I did kind of find that one phone call, or maybe when I was going to the gas station, that, you know, person behind the counter was extra nice, or we laughed or something, you know? And I started really recognizing these moments in my life, and then it made me feel like I was contributing to that. And I believe I was 100% contributing to that, right? Because I was changing my perspective. So I was starting to dial in my RAS, right? And start to create value. I was telling myself these are high value things. And that's what your RAS wants to do, your reticular activation system. It wants to identify high value things. Being safe is a high value. So it will identify threats for you. Feeling good is a high value. So it'll identify things that you like, and I wanted, I realized I could tune this thing in. I could really dial this into where I'm starting to see these things and lead myself to these emotions and these things and these experiences. And it was a weird practice for a while, and I was trying all different sizes, 3x3, 3x4, 5x5. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just playing with it. I had nothing else that was really seeming to work for me at that time. So and then I felt also too, I'm like, well, if according to how manifestation works, they always say, picture what you want and find the feeling of it. And then
Mhm.
what is that feeling? Is it joy, happiness? And I'm like, well, if I want to if I want to be in the right experience for that manifestation to come to me, like that needs to be part of my life. I need to experience it, because I'm saying that after that event occurs, I would feel joy perpetually. Well, if it's not true that I can feel joy perpetually now, then how could the manifestation occur, right? Because I'm not lined up for it. So I want to practice these things. I want to practice these emotions. I want to get good at them. I don't need the money. I don't need the event. I can feel the emotion right now. So I'm going to start there and I'm going to lead that. And when it comes to me, I'm already going to be ready, right? That was kind of my thinking in it. And it led me down a really fun path that has paid off in many ways. I've experienced manifestations, and just got a nice brand new truck. But to me, it's not about that. Like, to me, it's like that's really cool, but what's more cool is that I could decide how I wanted my life to turn out, and I could start influencing it, and it could feel really, really good along the way. And that's now, it's just like, to me, it's all about the feeling good along the way. All the things will come, the money, the whatever it is that someone may want or I may want or anyone. But if I can enjoy the journey, if I can really enjoy this ride and live in the now moment happy, then that's the biggest win of all to me.
Yeah, so you're saying something that, again, you keep on saying so many, like, there's all these gold nuggets that you keep on dropping. One of them was you talked about the reticular activating system, and you're talking about how by focusing on, you wanted happiness, you wanted joy, um, you are actually programming your reticular activating system to go on a search system where now it's like, okay, I want to feel happiness, I want to feel joy. So now your RAS is going, okay, now we know what to look for. It's kind of like going to Google, putting in the search engine joy, comma, happy. So now your RAS is going, okay, now we're not going to look for what feels bad. I'm going to look, my mission is to focus on joy and happy. So anything that gives you that feeling of joy and happy is right now on your radar. And you're going to go, wait a minute, this makes me happy and this makes me happy. You've asked an effective question. Now you are using your brain instead of your brain using you and going on default programming. You have in effect programmed your brain and put in the GPS coordinates of what it is that you want and where you want to go. So the brilliance in what I see that you did was that you didn't limit it to one, two, or three words. You had a grid of, 16 words, I think it was, and
Yeah.
then you play with, sometimes it was 9 words, sometimes it was 15 words, but basically, and it could be any number of words, but they're all elevated positive emotions that inherently feel good in your body.
Yeah.
So now your RAS is going, okay, I want funny. Okay. Oh my gosh. Maybe if you hadn't put down funny, you would have not noticed all these funny things that are around in your environment.
Yeah.
But you programmed your head by literally thinking, I want funny, and then you write down funny.
Yep.
So now your hand kinesthetically feels funny. Your eyes are seeing funny. Your thoughts are about funny. Now it's outside of here and onto paper. You walk away from it, and the rest of the day, you are finding things that make you happy, make you feel joy, things that are funny. I gotta tell you, it seems like a pretty awesome way to live and to program yourself to look for the things that you want as opposed to the things that you don't want.
Yeah, and that's that's kind of what I wanted to show a little bit today, just to follow on from last week. And if you're ready, I'll get going. But and let you see how it works, right? So, is it possible to do this when you don't feel good at all? 100% it is, and that's really what I'd like to talk about today. So, are we you ready? And we'll start playing with the grid,
Let's
right?
go. I've got my notebook here ready and I'm eager to get started. Pen and
So,
paper.
you got to imagine when I started this, like none of these emotions were dominant and present and constant in my experience. And I still have honestly mornings where I wake up and I'm just like, oh my God, right? But I've got, I come and I do my grid work and I walk away 15 minutes later and I feel like the top of the world. It's really incredible. But it wasn't that easy in the beginning. It took some work, right? So, I think if someone's thinking about, all right, where do you start? Well, start with something real easy, right? Start with an ask. What do you want, right? Something that you can reach for. So a real easy you want, I think that, a lot of people can relate to is just happy, right? Maybe you start with happy, right? And then you take a moment, you write that word down and you can draw your line down or over, however, whatever order you want. And what I would do is I would just go, okay, what is happiness? And well, for me, I could remember that happy moment. So I could go back to that, right? And I could go, yeah, that felt happy, or in other moments that were happy. And I would just think about them and try to think about them as long as I could. And then what would happen is in the now moment. So your brain, when it's just like with trauma, when you relive bad memories, you relive the emotions of those bad memories too. But when you relive good memories, you relive the emotions of those good memories too. And it works both ways in the past and in the future, right? If you're thinking about an experience that feels really good in the future, you can feel that. Your brain doesn't know that that's something that's waiting to happen. It starts responding to your thoughts right away. So you can actually begin to get the sensations, the feelings. That's when I say the feeling of it, get the sensation of it in your body and it feels good. And that's what you're looking for. But
Mhm.
some days, like I'll be honest, like I said, I do 16 words. I might be 9 or 10 words deep before the sensation comes, but I keep reaching. I know what I want, so I just keep reaching for it. So what does that look and feel like? So let's say I wake up, I feel happy, and I'm like, it's a bad day yesterday. Happy's not coming, right? Like, but I know I want it, and I'm gonna at least acknowledge, yeah, I know happy's good, and I definitely would love to get there, but it's gonna be a bit of a reach. And maybe today I'd also like to feel love. I want to feel loved. I want to love others. I want to experience love, but maybe I can't hit that, right?
Mhm.
And you like you said, funny. And one word I love is fun. Today I want to have fun. I want to feel fun. And and sometimes fun might be an easier one. Maybe, go for that's another thing. Go for words that are easy to reach, right? If you know how to get to a feeling, use that word, use it. That can get you there, because once you get there, the other ones all come easy because they're all going to be related to that good feeling. They're all going to share a symbioticness with that good feeling. So if you can get to one or two, you can usually get to almost anything you want. But let's say maybe we're still having a hard time, and I'm just angry. I'm so angry this morning. Things aren't working out, and I really wish they were. And but they're just not. So, I learned that those negative emotions, frustration, anger, hate, all that kind of stuff, it's all an ask. It's all because something is missing, right? And I just kind of stumbled through this through trial and error. And I realized, because I'd ask myself when I was feeling good, like, why are you feeling good? And when I was feeling bad, I'd ask myself, why are you feeling bad? And I started to notice that when I was feeling bad, I was always wanting something. There was always something missing. I always felt something needed to occur. I needed more of something. There was always an ask behind it. So I started to think about those words in that way. Like, okay, so I'm feeling angry. What am I angry about? Maybe I'm feeling, I don't feel safe. Maybe I don't feel secure, right? I feel threatened, or something like that. So I'd realize, well, maybe that ask is to feel safe, right? Maybe what I want to feel is safe, you know? And then what does safety feel like? How does it feel? Do I remember feeling safe? And what's interesting that I found is that emotional pain that is pushing you, that ask, it gets stronger. The stronger it gets, the stronger the pain is. But when you can identify what it is that you're looking for, you want to feel, That is what the ask is looking for. And the momentum sometimes of that pain can actually draw you toward that thing faster, right? So if you're feeling really trapped, like, oh, I can't get out of my life, the things aren't working out, there's just nowhere to go, no way, I don't see any way that it's possible. you know what you might be looking for or asking for is to feel free or to have freedom, right? Either one. So you can, so then I'd go, okay, what does free feel like? When have I felt free? And start creating an emotional register of free and trying to reach for it. And so, sometimes I could get to where I call this kind of like you get on the tip of it. You know it's there, you've identified it in your mind, you're like, yeah, I want it, but you're not quite feeling it. So here's a little trick I learned that I used to always feel my grid out this way, and now I found that I've been able to reach these emotions faster. So my methods have
Oh,
evolved, right? But what I would then do is, so I would start out and I'd fill out the top and I'd, fill out here. These are things I want to reach for. And these are things that I feel like I'm asking for because of whatever my emotion is. And so then I would think about safe and I go, well, what if I felt safe and I felt love at the same time? What would those two things, what would the combination of safe and love? Because I've kind of created an image. I have some thoughts, not necessarily feeling anything at the moment, but I know what love looks like, or I can imagine what love looks like, and I can imagine what safe looks like. And I'm trying to find a way. So what would happen if I felt safe and I felt love? What would be going on in my life? What would that feel? And like, if I felt safe and I felt love, maybe I would feel really sure of myself. I feel really sure because I'm feeling in love and I'm feeling safe, and that new I'm triggering up creative things, right? I'm starting to think about new things. I'm creating in my mind. Yeah, sure. And maybe I don't have any resistance around the word sure. And then I can go, have I ever felt sure? And I'd write that word sure down, right? And there's my next word. And I'd go, yeah, sure would feel good. That sounds fun. I like that. And then I'd say, well, what if I felt sure and what if I felt free? Man, if I felt sure and I felt free, I might feel unstoppable. I might feel confident, maybe I feel really confident. So, and the word is there's not a combination of these. I don't want to make anybody think that, okay, free plus sure always equals confident. It's what does it mean to you? Because this is your creative ability right here at work right now. Now I'm going, okay, so if I felt free and I felt sure, I'd feel confident. And then I can think about, what does confidence feel like? And then I'd come up and I'd go, well, if I felt sure and I was having fun at the same time, what would that be like? Like, whoa, man, that one just brought me right back to happy. That sounds like happy. Okay, maybe now I'm feeling a little happy, and I'm going, okay, I get this. I'm starting to understand, what these things mean to me. But if I was having a fun time and I felt sure, maybe I'd feel I don't know, more bold, more brave, free. Okay, look, I'm finding these words again, and this starts to happen. You start to see it, but now look, I'm looking for a new word. I got these words already. I want something else to go in there. I want something I can create. What's between sure and fun for me? And I can think of maybe this would just be joy. Man, do I understand what joy means? That's a word that comes around a lot, but maybe what joy means to me is to feel really sure and really fun. And now I'm defining these words, right? I'm defining these by my life experience, by what I want and how I want to feel. I'm owning there's going to be a signature for joy, and it's going to be unique to me. It's going to fit me. And this is what I'm creating because I'm not listening to anybody else. I've now by this time I've activated so much in my mind. I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I'm not thinking about 3 hours from now. I'm not thinking about yesterday. I'm trying to solve this problem. What does sure and fun feel like? And you know what? I think it feels like joy, and I'm happy with that answer. I like that answer, right? And so then I can think of, what is confident? Well, if I felt confident and I felt joy, like, I mean, what does that feel like? Maybe that just feels amazing. I want to feel amazing. That sounds fun. Oh, there's another word. And, I think I could be in love with feeling amazing. Like, I could let that be part of my life. And so, I would write a word like amazing, right? It's whatever the word only matters in so much as what it means to you and how it feels, because you're creating triggers now. You're creating things, right? And so now, hopefully by this time, you're in that feeling, you're in that good feeling place. And then you'll should be able to find that you can look across all those words and recognize that little signature of them. And it was faint for me. It started as a trickle. These things were small, but like even going through this now, right now, I'm like, oh man, like amazing, feels so amazing. I feel amazing right now, just doing
Mhm.
this in this moment, and it's incredible, right? Because I can feel the pleasure from it. I can feel the relaxation in my body. I can feel all these sensations that are really spectacular. And you know, but that's it. That's what I would do. And then I would get up the next morning and I would do the same thing all over again. I sometimes I would use the same words, some not most times I wouldn't. And I really encourage you that, in the beginning, if you're trying this, just go searching for the word, because it's that searching, right? It's that the looking and the finding that is really important. If you're having a hard time and you want to just use the same words, do that too. Do what works for you, because your internal guidance system is going to lead you through this. It wants this more than you do, more than you think you do, right? Your body wants to be happy. Your mind, your soul, your spirit wants to be happy. It wants to feel good. So if you will open a door and allow it to teach you that, it's there and it's waiting to teach you.
So, yeah, so what you're saying is trust your inner guidance, trust your intuition, trust that inner voice inside of you, because we all have that part of us that is unconditional love, that only wants good things for us. That's the divine part of us. That's where we are. If you look at the ancient scriptures, we are made in God's image, in the universe, infinite source intelligence, whatever it is that you want to call. Some people have an issue with the word God. I don't, but I know some people do. So that
Yeah.
label doesn't matter. But that energy that created the body, created the universe, can also heal the body, can get you back to your true north, so that you're now looking for, instead of what you don't want, looking for what you do want.
Yeah.
And so the words, it's like, whatever your first, if you think happy, fun, joy, then write down happy, fun, joy. Trust that the first words that come out that are positive emotions are the ones. Don't second guess, because that is your intuition telling you. It's our left brain that says, no, 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 maybe that's not right. No, it is right. We're
Yeah.
here, both of us, we're here telling you, no, those first words that you're thinking that are the emotions that you want to focus on, the first ones are going to be the right ones. Just trust yourself. Nobody, there's no police looking around.
Right.
If you're doing it, you can't do this wrong. This is
Can't.
for you. This is your little personal exercise, your little grid. You can keep it to 4 words. You can make 8 words. You can do 12 words. You can do 16 words. You can do 9 words. It's your choice. The
Yep.
point is, it's a practice that you can literally start to program what it is that you're going to start to look for, because your reticular activating system in your brain is going to go, okay, maybe you picked 4 words: happy, love, safe, and sure. That's a
Yeah.
pretty darn good place to start, I think, for everybody. If you
Yeah.
need to borrow those first 4 words tonight, and then tomorrow morning you're like, okay, I'm gonna play with this and see how this goes. Maybe I'm gonna try it for the next 30 days.
Yeah.
Then just start with that, even if you have to use the same. I mean, I can't see how anyone could go wrong with focusing on happy, love, safe, and sure over the next 30 days.
Yeah.
Wonderful things have to come to you because you're centered in love and happy, sure, and safe. So it's not super technical. This is intuitive, but I think as people just give themselves permission to open up and just try this and say, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and screw it. I'm just going to go ahead and write it down. I'm going to trust in the process. I'm going to see what happens. And then you're going to, do you normally come back the next morning and then look at your grid from the day before and then go, okay, this is where this showed up? Or is it at the end of the day that you do a recap and go, oh, yeah, I see that this is where I saw, a glimmer of happiness. I remember, having, a vanilla milkshake with a friend, which I normally don't do, but, we decided to go out for vanilla shakes. And it's like, I love that vanilla milkshake. And that felt so
Yeah.
good. And to spend time with my buddy. And that was fun. So there's that other word, fun. And so,
Yeah. So good, great questions, and there's really two points there. I think I want to address. So yes, I do review it, and for me, I do it the next day in the morning, and the reason. So kind of the second point is, my kids wake up early, they go to school. Once the day starts, it's just kind of busy. You're kind of on the track, you know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
knew this about myself. Once I kind of fell into line and started doing, I would just do all day long. So I wanted to kind of get ahead of that, right? And so for me, it was I started waking up earlier, right? And I would set aside, 30 minutes or so for this process, because each word I would really just take and I'd close my eyes and I'd just repeat the word in my head. I'd just say it over and over: love, 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 love. Or I'd count it out: love one, love two, love three, whatever kept me focused on it. And I
Mhm.
would try to just do it. And as you're focusing on something, you're letting other noise in your brain and your mind die out, right? So, but as far as like when the time of day is, right, I cannot tell you that you need to do this one day and then do it next morning, because that's the only way it works. No, that's what's working for me because it fits my lifestyle, right? So if you did this in the morning and it fit you to do it at night, to do a review at night, you could do it at night. If you do your grid at night before you go to bed and check it the next night before you go, like, it's still okay, right? It's so the idea is that you want, but you're setting intent and then you're following back and looking at how that intent paid off. And on the review, right? So how would I do that? At first, I would actually go to each word and I would draw a little line up and I would write out the exact thing that happened, just because I was kind of OCD about it, right? I was like, I'm going to prove it, and
Mhm.
so like I would write out the event and stuff, and this would take a long time, and I was getting kind of frustrated because that effort was probably took way longer than the grid. And and I started, I was like, they were easy to find, but I could, they got easier and easier. And there's one magical little thing happened because in my mind I was kind of going, I feel like I need to find a way to make this a little simpler, right? Because it's kind of complex. And I come in one day and my son has got my notepad and a pen, and I'm like, oh man, he's got my notepad and he's over there. And I go, what are you doing, buddy? And he goes, Dad, he goes, I'm helping you say yes. And I go,
Wow.
huh? And I look, and what he had did was went to my words and just put check marks on them. And I go, oh yeah, I could do that too, right? Like, so I would look at the word and then I would remember that moment and that event, and I'd go, yep, got that one, got that one, got that one. And it would take, like, that way the whole process took like a whole minute, but I still got the pleasure of thinking about all those things and
Mhm.
feeling all those emotions and stuff like that. It just I took some of the work out of it, right? Thanks to my 6-year-old, and his just born brilliance that I think the children have. But
He helped you say yes.
yeah, he said, Daddy, I'm helping you say yes. And I was like, oh, all right, buddy, thank you.
That I think is awesome because you know what? It's like, you're telling yourself and you're having the recognition, you're acknowledging your intention that was set to create these feelings with these thoughts and these feelings. And yep, you did it. Yep, you did it. Yep, you did it. So, out of the mouth of babes, oh my gosh, he definitely helped you say yes, which this is also evidence that the divine will use anything around you to get
Yeah,
the message in the way that you need to hear it. So
yeah,
out of the mouth of babes, he knew that you would respond and you would recognize that he was using your son as that angel, as that messenger to say
yeah,
yes.
yeah. Hey, you needed to, you need to be able to do it on the fly. I knew I was going to, at that time I had a little more time, but life gets busy and you need something that can work. So, again, go with your gut, right? If you got the time and you feel like writing it all down, but if you're right now going, man, this guy's talking about this 15 minutes, like I don't have 15 minutes. Well, you know what? Do one word. Just one word. You don't even have to make a grid out of it. Do one word and then look for that and check mark it. I mean, you can do that in 3 minutes, 5 minutes, right? Make it as simple as you need to make it, and then grow it. And like, honestly, it doesn't have to be this shape. You could make it a circle. It could be a triangle. It could be whatever resonates with you, because that's really the important part more than anything. Is this is what resonated with me, right? And I believe it will resonate with other people. I think other people can use that, and that's fantastic. But you know what? You might need to modify it for yourself, and you have that freedom. You have that ability, right? You have that ability to listen to what your mind and body is telling you. And if it's saying, yeah, that's kind of cool, but I think I'd do it like this. Then that's how you should do it. Try it, right? Play with it. If things get better and it starts to work, then go with that. If it doesn't, maybe come back and adjust something. This is kind of my method of experimenting. I'll get an idea sometime and I'll go, okay, I'm gonna try this, and I just give it my heart for a period of time. I pick 7 days, 2 weeks, 30 days, whatever it is, right? And I just, I go, I'm just gonna let go and just experiment with this, and I'm gonna be all into it for a moment and see what good comes out of it. And some things, like after a couple of days, I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting anything here, or it just doesn't feel like it, and sometimes I push forward and it does, and sometimes I just go, no, this isn't, I can tell it's just not right, it's not working. And then sometimes you'll try something new and I'll go, yeah, this is exactly what I was looking for. So play with it. All of that is a process of learning what works for you, how visually things work for you, how emotionally things work for you, what kind of language. This is why I love the emotional labels, right? Because what I'm doing is I'm labeling events in my life with the signature of the emotion that I felt and that I think about with that. And I'm making a connection. It doesn't have to be about the conditions of the event, right? It's about the experience I had and the experience I had leading to it, not after it, because now I'm feeling these things before the events. And so I'm teaching my mind to think that, look, if I feel these things, I'll experience more things that feel like this, which is true, right? And I'm
Yeah.
not waiting for that event to feel it and then going, oh, I got to recreate that event so I can get another hit of that great feeling.
Mhm. So I think, yeah, this is really absolutely fantastic. The way you're laying everything out. I want to make it available for, we've got a few people that are on the call. If somebody wants to ask a question specifically to Clint, I want to make that opportunity available to you so that you can ask any questions. Okay.
Yeah.
If one of the things that I do want to, we won't have enough time to go into today, but I know that we still have 4 more sessions after this. So next week, one of the things that I would like to bring up is how you use this grid work to transform the relationship that you had with your mother. Because relationships, whether it's with a parent, a sibling, any other kind of loved one, it could be a romantic partner. Oftentimes, that's the biggest area of challenge that people have that actually affect their physical health and their well being. And you
Yeah.
were able to completely morph that in a really beautiful way using this grid work. And so next week, I want to focus on that aspect of it and how I also wanted to get into the art and the music and so forth, but there isn't enough time today. So in the weeks that come forward, in weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5, we will touch upon those different elements because this grid work is so fantastic because you are getting down to the core of who you are. And of course, the emotions are the fuel that propel you. And because you're choosing to be more precise in selecting what you want to feel, you are able to really kind of like you're molding the clay as to what it is that you want your life to look like in a very specific way.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. And I've come to realize, that the grid I make each day it's like a self-portrait. It's who I am for that day. I might as well be a picture of me just looking back and smiling and saying, here I am, right? This is who I decided to be. And so it's a self-portrait in an emotional palette, if you will, of who I am or who I intend to be and who, what I'm looking for and aiming for. And so, yeah, I feel like for me, every day I design myself first thing in the morning and I decide who I want to be and I live that life, and I wish I could say that it was really difficult. It's kind of sometimes surprising to me how easy it is. Again, the hardest part was just the focus and being willing to allow myself to have the experience because honestly, I was in just a state where the beliefs I had allowed myself to hold on to told me that I couldn't, told me that I shouldn't, told me, and that was another thing along this journey as I start feeling happy a lot and all that kind of stuff. Those beliefs, they're coming around and they're like, hey, what are you doing over there? Feeling all happy and stuff, And I'm
all
like,
the
I'm
time.
enjoying myself. And it's they're like, no. And I'm like, and you have to deal with that. That's an internal battle, right? In which you have to go, okay, like, look, I hear what you're saying, and I believed you for a long time. But man, this feels good. And I'm not hurting anybody. This is free. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this doesn't cost anything. Like, you can't tell me I can't have this. And the belief's like, yeah, you shouldn't, you're probably doing something wrong, and you have to have that inter discourse with yourself and kind of work that stuff out. And that is, to me, the process. That's where I start to realize that, all the things that I experience are, it's just, if I'm coming up against something that feels bad, it's because there's something I want and something I believe that's telling me I can't have it. Getting rid of that belief almost in a way can make you look forward to the pain, because you realize, look, that pain is just a problem. And on the other side of it is what I'm really craving. And I know I can handle my problems. I know that I can let go of it. And I know that if I give it a little love and I break that thing down and find out what I'm missing in my grid that I need to put in my grid today, that I can start leading myself to the solution that I'm looking for.
It's fantastic. We're at the top of the hour, and this is the perfect place, I think, for us to end this particular segment. Next Thursday, same time, same place. Join us for the second part of this 5-part series on this human mind programming word code and this grid work, which is, I just think it's like the cat's meow. It is, I think, a brilliant manifestation of how you can design your life on purpose with intention. And it's simple. And you can, like Clint said, you can use 4 words, 8 words, 10 words, 12 words, 16 words. It doesn't matter. You can shape it. Well, I think next week maybe we can do some that are shaped maybe like triangles, or maybe two
Yeah.
triangles together, so that people can see you could do this in groups of 3. And we'll just kind of move forward with that, and then we'll focus on the relationship aspect, because the reality is we're all in relationship with someone. And the first relationship that we're getting squared away with this grid work is the relationship that we have with ourselves.
Yeah.
Once we design our self portrait, as Clint said, beautiful languaging too, by the way, my friend, fellow genius mystic healer, you're designing your self portrait, then of course you can design the relationships the way you show up, since it's different now. Your relationships with other and the reactions that they have with you are going to be different, and you can start to use words as to how you want to feel as you enter into those relationships in all areas of your life.
100%. Yeah, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. Relationships are a big part of this, right? Because we interact with other people, and it can get tricky, right? But every relationship is honestly an opportunity for personal growth. So, thank you so much. I had fun as always, and I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, it's going to be wonderful.
It's going to be wonderful. Well, thank you, my friends and gems, for being here on Love and Money Secrets TV on another broadcast. Thank you. And as always, oh, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the Intuition Manifesto. The paperbacks are officially started shipping out this week. We launched on the 22nd of February, and we are 1 week and a couple days into this. So make sure you order your copy now if you want to tune in, tap in, and turn on into your intuition and unlock the gateway of your dreams. With this and this grid work, you'll have the world. It's like you've got the bull by the horns. You'll be able to, I really believe that you can do anything that you set your mind to, because now your Raz is literally being programmed.
Yeah.
So thank you for tuning in, tapping in, and turning on. And ciao for now.
Bye. Thank you.